Hi, everybody. Are you fine? I'm fine. So let's begin our International Framework for Environmental Protection number 12 about asbestos and PFOA litigation chemicals. The keywords are asbestos, mesothelioma. This is the disease resulting from the inhalation of asbestos. And we have PFAS, perfluoroalkyls, and PFOA, PFOA, perfluorooctanoic acid. They all are carcinogenic chemicals causing cancer. So, first of all, let's see about the asbestos. What is asbestos? Asbestos is a group of 6 naturally occurring silicate and fibrous minerals composed of thin, needle-like fibers. Exposure to asbestos causes several cancers and diseases, including mesothelioma and asbestosis. Although asbestos strengthens and fireproofs materials, it is banned in many countries. The characteristic of asbestos are as follows. Optical properties are biaxial, and formula mass is 277.11 grams per mole. Category is silicate minerals. It's not chemicals. It is mineral. Melting point is 500 to 1040 degrees centigrade, very high. That's why it is used in the construction or in the engines, motors of many mechanical machines. 752 to 1904 degrees Fahrenheit. The crystal habit is amorphous, granular, massive. And the crystal systems are orthorhombic crystal system, monoclinic crystal system. How it looks like? It looks like this. This is the roof made of asbestos. This is the material, construction material. And we have 6 types of asbestos. And the origin of asbestos. The word asbestos comes from the ancient Greek, meaning unquenchable or unextinguishable. Asbestos is mineral, and there are 6 types. Chrysotile, amosite, crocidolite, tremolite, actinolite, anthophyllite. These brown and blue are very dangerous types of asbestos. And let's see about the discovery and history. Humans began using asbestos at least 10,000 years ago. Archaeological evidence supports that clay cooking pots in Scandinavia dated 8,000 before Christ contained asbestos fibers. These ancient potters realized adding asbestos to clay made their vessels heat resistant. So this is the picture of the mining asbestos. In 1876, chrysotile white asbestos was discovered in the Thetford Township in southeastern Quebec in Canada. Shortly afterward, Canadians established the world's first commercial asbestos mines. By the early 1900s, anthophyllite asbestos was mined in Finland, Amosite brown asbestos was discovered in Transvaal, South Africa. And a purse made of fireproof asbestos, now part of London's Natural History Museum collection, was brought to England by Benjamin Franklin during his first visit there as a young man in 1725. Paper made from asbestos was discovered in Italy in the early 17,000s. January 17, this is the Benjamin Franklin picture. And now let's see about the ancient industrial production of asbestos. The Jones Company began mining fibrous anthophyllite in 1858 for use as asbestos insulation at the World's Fair Quarry in Staten Island, New York. The Industrial Revolution saw a marked increase in asbestos production and use in North America, with the first commercial asbestos mine opening in 1874 in Quebec, Canada. And afterwards, there is the invention of asbestos hazardity. During the 1960s, evidence emerged indicating that asbestos fibers posed a dangerous medical risk. Dr. Alvin Silikoff, this man, 1915, May 20, 1992, of the Mount Sinai School of Medicine in New York City, studied the health and mortality of asbestos insulation workers. He found alarming rates of lung cancer and asbestosis. So, hazard of asbestos. Let's see how this affects human health. Asbestos is dangerous because it has the ability to break down into microscopically thin fibers. Once lodged in the lung tissue, these fibers can cause several serious diseases, including lung cancer, asbestosis, a scarring of the lung tissue, and mesothelioma, cancer of the lining of the lung cavity. This is the asbestos fibers in lung tissues. It continues lodging in the tissue until the person will get sick. So this is the chemical structure of asbestos. It is a hydrous magnesium silicate with the chemical composition of Mg3, Si2, O5, this, and OH4. The other types all belong to the amphibole group of minerals and include the fibrous forms of anthophyllite, amosite, gurnerite, crocidolite, riebeckite, tremolite, and actinolite. All of them with a similar structure. And the chemical compounds of these asbestos, let us see. Chrysotile or white asbestos is the most commonly encountered form of asbestos, accounting for approximately 95% of the asbestos in the United States and a similar proportion in other countries. And erionite is a naturally occurring fibrous mineral that belongs to a group of minerals called zeolites. It usually is found in volcanic ash that has been altered by weathering and groundwater. This is the amphibole And it is an important group of inosilicated minerals forming prism or needle-like crystals composed of double chain silica oxygen 4 tetrahedra linked at the vertices and generally containing ions of iron and or magnesium in their structures. Earthballs can be green, black, colorless, white, yellow, blue, or brown. And this is the peligorskite or attapulgite, and this is a magnesium aluminum phyllosilicate with formula MgAl2 silicate 4 oxygen 10 OH 4 H2O that occurs in a type of clay soil common to the southeastern United States. It is one of the types of fuller's earth. And how many asbestos fibers are dangerous? No amount of asbestos is considered safe. Even a minimum portion is dangerous. Products that contain greater than 1% of asbestos minerals are considered to be asbestos containing. The more asbestos you are exposed to, the more likely you are to get an asbestos disease. Asbestosis and lung cancer are those related diseases. Like this. Each exposure from any source in any amount contributes to one's total lifetime dose of asbestos, which increases his or her risk for developing an asbestos-related disease such as mesothelioma, asbestosis, lung cancer, and other cancers. And we can see here in the house where the asbestos is used in miscellaneous many places of the house and in the machine, on the roof, on the wall, exterior surface of the house. So nowadays, the government put a ban on asbestos, but the old houses still have asbestos. What if someone breathed in asbestos? Not all people who are exposed to asbestos will develop a disease. In order to develop a disease, it is necessary to inhale certain amounts of asbestos. If anybody inhales a small amount of asbestos in short time, then the risk is very small. Actually, most of the people who inhale asbestos won't develop any disease. But if you are exposed every day, the whole time in a shut area, it is very dangerous because you will inhale only asbestos containing atmosphere. And where is asbestos found? This is the ceiling. Asbestos may be found in insulation, drywall, ceiling, and floor tiles, cement, paint, and more. Most US homes and commercial buildings built before 1980 contain asbestos products. And how long does asbestos stay in the air? Asbestos fibers are very light, just like a cotton. Because they are so light and because of their shape, they can float in the air for long periods of time. It can take 48 to 72 hours for asbestos fibers to fall in a still room. In the room with air currents, these fibers may stay in the air much longer. And you can inhale it. Can anybody smell asbestos in the air? Research shows asbestos fibers can cause major breathing problems and cancer. Old and brittle asbestos products can release tiny, even microscopic fibers. These fibers can remain suspended in the air and enter your lungs when you inhale. Airborne asbestos fibers have no odor or taste. The size of a fiber of asbestos is 1/5,000th of thickness. And how many people have been killed by asbestos? Asbestos exposure is the #1 cause of work-related deaths in the world. Approximately 90,000 people die from asbestos-related diseases globally each year. An estimated 125 million people worldwide remain at risk of occupational exposure to asbestos. This is in 2016. Disease, number of US deaths, and number of global deaths in 2016. Lung cancer, 34,270 deaths in United States. In world, 181,000 people dying in the world. Mesothelioma, 3,000 in the United States, 27,000 in the world. Ovarian cancer, 787 deaths in US and 6,000 in the world. Laryngeal cancer, 443 in the United States, 3,700 in globally. Asbestosis, 600 in the United States, 3,000 in the world. And how common is cancer from asbestos? Mesothelioma is the only type of cancer almost exclusively caused by asbestos exposure. Around 70% to 75% of mesotheliomas form in the pleura lining of the lungs, and nearly 20% form in the peritoneum lining of the abdomen. In very rare cases, cancer develops in the lining around the heart or testes. So this is a symptom, pain in the side of chest or lower back, shortness of breath, and cough, always coughing. And now let's see about the annual production of asbestos. The world mine production of asbestos amounted to approximately 2.2 million metric tons in 2007. In 2018, total production dropped just above 1 million metric tons. So this is the chart of the asbestos mine production globally. This is Russia, Kazakhstan, Brazil, and China. They are still producing and exporting, and there are many countries importing them, just like India or the Southern Asia are main importers of the asbestos. In 2010, some 200,000 metric tons of asbestos were produced in Kazakhstan, Russia. Russia, however, is the world's largest producer with an annual production of around 0.69 million metric tons in 2018. So this is the metric tons of production. Russian Federation, #1, 1,050,000 tons. China, 420,000 tons. Brazil, 307,000 tons. Kazakhstan, 242,000 tons. India, 2,406 tons. Argentina, 100,000 metric tons. The asbestos consumer countries are the following. This is the global asbestos fiber consumption in 2012. India, the biggest consumer is China, 26%, and then India, 25%, and then we have Brazil with 9%, Indonesia, 8%, Russia, 8%. Russia produces, but also it's a very big consumer country. Other 7%, Uzbekistan 5%, Vietnam 4%, Thailand 3%, Sri Lanka 3%, Ukraine 2%. And how about the asbestos import in Japan? Asbestos imports increased during the period of Japan's industrial growth in the 1960s and 1970s. In 1974, annual imports reached a peak at 352,110 tons. But following a global trend, Japanese asbestos industry stopped importing cross-siderite, blue asbestos, most harmful, since 1988, and amosite, brown asbestos, since 1993, January 1st, 2001. How about asbestos import in Sri Lanka? This is from 2009 to 2018. Sri Lanka imports from Brazil of asbestos was 3 million American dollars during 2017 here, according to the United Nations Comtrade database of international trade. So it's a big amount still. This is an import of asbestos in Indonesia. Nearly 180 Indonesian companies import asbestos either as a raw material or a finished product. Because it is cheap and durable, the National Statistics Agency estimates asbestos is found in about 10% of all homes for roofing. It can also be found in schools, markets, and even hospitals, activists say. This is the import of asbestos in Nepal. Nepal itself doesn't process or mine asbestos, but it is used to import large quantities of it for different purposes. According to the statistics mentioned in the profile, Nepal imported 12,052 metric tons of asbestos in 2015 to 2016, after the government banned its import. Now it is banned. This is the import of asbestos in Bangladesh from 2011 back to 2003. This source is Public Integrity Organization, asbestos consumption. So in this year, the total import was 10,003,866 US dollars. Monthly import 143,409 US dollars. And it increased every year since 2003. And still it is increasing. You can see here. Now, how many people have been affected by asbestos? Currently, about 125 million people in the world are exposed to asbestos at the workplace. And approximately half of the deaths from occupational cancer are estimated to be caused by asbestos. In addition, it is estimated that several thousand deaths annually can be attributed to exposure to asbestos in the home. This is the 15th International Asbestos Awareness and Prevention Conference held in Washington, D.C., 2019. She is responsible, Bev Messenger, Institution of Occupational Safety and Health, United Kingdom. And nowadays, with the ban of asbestos, we have alternatives of asbestos. It looks like asbestos, but the material is different. It is polyurethane foams. These foams can be used within a spray on any type of structure and are extremely safe to use, as they don't emit any harmful gases. And it can be flower fillers or cellulose fibers, thermoset plastic flower, amorphous silica fabrics. So if you use the alternative of asbestos, you are contributing for the green building alternatives, pushing asbestos out of homes. And how much does the asbestosis cause? The medical expenses. Medical debt is part of the terrible legacy of asbestos exposure in America. Cancer therapies are expensive for all patients in the US. The average cost of a major chest surgery is about $40,000, and 8 weeks of chemotherapy may cost up to $30,000. So only who can pay that amount can be treated. So now let us see the leading asbestos marketing company of the world of asbestos. Shri Firepark Safety Private Limited, Samarth Industries, Balaji Enterprises, Pune, Supreme in Safety Services, National Safety Solution, Protector Fire and Safety, Hyrule Industrial Corporation, Core Safety Group, Super Safety Services, Mumbai, Unique Udyog, Mumbai, Specialty Safety Engineers, Perfect Welding Solutions, Oriental Enterprises, Yogdeep Enterprise, Atlas Tools Center, JAB Enterprises, Chongqing Jinkan Insulation Material Company Limited, Deichin Kodai Fireproof Material Factory, Kanto Yufen Refractory Insulation Materials, Henan Xiai Asbestos Products Factory, Yuyao Qiantong Insulation Materials. These are all Chinese. And do we have regulation for the usage of asbestos? Of course we have. Law on asbestos. The Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, has no general ban on the use of asbestos. However, asbestos was one of the first hazardous air pollutants regulated under Section 112 of the Clean Air Act of 1970. And many applications have been forbidden by the Toxic Substances Control Act, TSCA. In Japan also, asbestos was banned in the 1980s. But construction that used asbestos in the past still are with the asbestos in the material of construction. And unless it is not demolished, it will stay, will keep their presence in the construction materials. Now let's see about the Canadian town of Asbestos. The name of the town was Asbestos. and it changed to a different name now. And because asbestos, as everybody know that it is very dangerous, the population of that city of Asbestos wanted to change the name of the city. And in Canada, Asbestos, the city of Asbestos, initially grew from the development of an asbestos mine around a large deposit of the substance discovered there in 1897. For decades, the town thrived on asbestos mining and product manufacturing. Asbestos is naturally occurring but very toxic substance, once widely used for insulation. It's been banned in Canada since 2018. The decision to change the town's name was made in November 2019, as the negative connotations have long been hindering business and tourism endeavors. So, call me Val. Asbestos could have been named after the Jeffrey mine pictured, but the residents voted for Val des Sources. So now the name of Asbestos is Val des Sources. This is a French name. So let's see. Here is the center of Asbestos city. The city was Asbestos. The original 4 proposals were revealed in September 2020. Apollon, Jeffrey, Phoenix, and Troalac. So they choose these 3 names, these 4 names to be voted. Apollon, which is in honor of an indigenous species of turtle, was suggested by Greenpeace Canada. Lynn Dion wasn't impressed, writing, "I wouldn't be proud to say that I live in a soft turtle city." Jeffrey refers to W.H. Jeffrey, who bankrolled the town's Jeffrey Asbestos mine. Critics argue that this would be continuing to shackle the town to its asbestos legacy, and also honoring the money men indirectly linked to the death of many workers. The new lineup of 6 names with a decidedly more francophone bent was revealed on October 2. Lazare du Canton, Geoffrey-sur-le-Lac, La Rochelle, Phoenix, Troalac, and Val des Sources. So, Val des Sources was chosen, new name of the Canadian city Asbestos, 2020. Val des Sources meaning Valley of the Springs, and referring to the town's location close to the sources of 3 lakes, was a clear winner with 51.5% of the vote. The new name was revealed live on Facebook, and this time the response was overwhelmingly positive. Local Geneviève Lucière took to the site to praise the socially distanced car vote system and added, "Merci d'avoir permis la démocratie." Thank you for allowing democracy. There are those, however, who will miss the old town name, carcinogenic though it may be. Wrote Jeanette Frichette during the September upset, "I'm against the name change. I was born in asbestos, and I want to die in asbestos." So we have to take a look also to this movie about asbestos, Canada's dirty secret. Because after the ban to the asbestos, Canada continued exporting asbestos to India, to other Southern Asian countries and other parts of the world. So they know that it was very dangerous, carcinogenous, but continued exporting, selling. Canada finally has a full asbestos ban, But for years, the country has quietly exported the cancer-causing products to countries like India, as this 2009 documentary shows. This is from the CBC News of 2016. This another is also interesting movie, very short one of 1 minute. And these are the books on asbestos. There are so many books on asbestos, and you should read one of them. And these are the references for the asbestos, and each movie or homepage are very informative. And if your country is still using asbestos, you should spread this knowledge to many people, because it will kill people with lung cancer or other lung diseases. Now, let's see on the another topic of today's lecture. It is about the PFOA. So what is PFOA? Well, PFOA stands for perfluorooctanoic acid. And the chemical formula is this, C8H15O2. Other names, C8 or perfluorooctanoate, perfluorocaprylic acid, FC143, FN-octanoic acid, PFO. Class, perfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS. PFOA has been manufactured since the 1940s in industrial quantities. Important benefit, water resistant and non-stick capacity. The stability of PFOA is desired industrially, but is a cause of concern environmentally. So, if you like to take a look at this, Callaghan explains PFOA and PFOS in water. You should take a look at. And this is on PFOS, PFOA analysis of Japan. North Carolina's Cape Fear River is a massive water system. It stretches across the lower half of the state, collecting runoff from 29 counties and providing water to millions of people. But in the city of Wilmington, where the river meets the Atlantic Ocean, the water has residents worried. In a 2019 test of tap water, Wilmington and neighboring Brunswick County were among the top 5 areas for high levels of PFAS or per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, a group of man-made chemicals commonly used for making non-stick or water-resistant products. Now, North Carolina is reckoning with the legacy of pollution upstream and discovering what decades of PFAS contamination means for the rest of the country. In the United States, many people know about that, but in many countries, people still continue using these products. This is the PFOA litigation chemicals. This is PFOS, PFOA. PFOS is perfluorooctanoic sulfur acid. This and perfluorooctanoic sulfur acid in this diagram. C, carbon, is all connected with fluor. C is here, C, 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 here also. With the end connected to sulfur acid, this sulfur acid, this SO2O8. And PFOA, perfluorooctanoic acid, carbon carbon is all connected with fluor, just like PFOS, but the end is different, with the end connected to acid. Okay. So PFOA seemed like a good idea at the time, just like this. This is good at repelling dirt, grease, water, and stains. And these chemicals were key ingredients in 2 or 3M's most iconic products until 2002. Post-it notes, Scotch Guard for not getting wet in the rainy weather. I think everybody used this kind of goods. And there are 8 places of PFOA that can be found in the kitchen. Traditional non-stick cookware, tap water, fast food wrapping and boxes, bread paper wrapping, pizza boxes, to-go boxes, certain disposable plates and cutlery, microwave popcorn bags. So, PFAS chemicals move from food packaging to landfills and compost, and then it will go to the environment, forest, sea, lake, river, and also to crops. The crops to people. And these PFAS chemicals move from food packaging to food. Many people eat them using these PFAS chemicals to people. So this is a transmission mechanism of PFOA. And what is the products? The products and the industrial application using PFAS. This is the carpets, common products that contain PFAS, clothing, paper food packaging, that kind of very slippery inner coated paper of hamburgers, water, grease, or stain-resistant materials used in pans or this kind of products. Furniture fabrics. This is resistance to dirty spots or liquid or grease. And this is the firefighting foam at airfields. It's so normal to see these products in our daily life. In the past decades, PFOA had been very popular compounds among manufacturers and industrial facilities. This compound was thought to be harmless. However, recent studies point out that it might pose health and environmental hazards. This is an alarming example of how lack of experimentation can go hand in hand with a prolific use that harms both the individual and the environment. Nowadays, this chemical is present virtually everywhere in the environment and in the species that inhabit it, humans included. PCBs, DDT, that kind of compounds. At first, everybody was thinking that it was safe, it was good, and it didn't make harm to the people. But always after they discovered that they are very harmful, carcinogenic. So this is the perfluorooctanoic acid in drinking water. How are people exposed? Drinking PFOA contaminated water or eating contaminated food, you will be exposed to that PFAS. These contaminants can get in the food as a result of the packaging containing them or because the crops which are used to produce the foods were contaminated by the PFOA found in the soil. Consumer products containing PFOA are also a source of exposure. Who work in an industrial facility where PFOA are deployed have higher contamination risks because the level of toxicity they may be exposed to it is elevated. Air and industrial dust. This is the potential health risks. Thyroid dysfunctions, increased levels of uric acid, liver problems, cholesterol changes, fetal development, cardiovascular problems, testicular cancer, kidney cancer. International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified PFOA as possibly carcinogenic, causes cancer. And you should watch this video also, Teflon Town, Chemifab's Toxic Legacy. It's 14 minutes video. Now let's see about the DuPont lawsuit. DuPont was a manufacturer of the plastic materials Teflon in West Virginia, USA. DuPont knew about the dangers of PFOA as far back as 1961, but didn't disclose this to workers or the surrounding public. By 1993, DuPont understood that PFOA caused cancerous testicular, pancreatic, and liver tumors in lab animals, and the company began to investigate alternatives. A local family sued DuPont in 1998 over loss of cattle allegedly due to the PFOA. This lawsuit was settled in 2001 for an undisclosed sum. So now let's see how PFOA became a global issue. In 1947, the 3M, Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company, began producing PFOA. In 1951, DuPont purchased PFOA from 3M for use in manufacturing of Teflon, but DuPont internally referred to the material as C8. In 1968, organofluorine content was detected in the blood serum of consumers, and in 1976, it was suggested to be PFOA. In 1999, EPA created pressure to examine the effects of perfluorinated chemicals after receiving data on toxicity. 2000 May, 3M announced the phase out of the production of PFOA. In 2000, 3M phased out. DuPont built its own plant in North Carolina to manufacture the chemical. The chemical was received attention due to litigation from the PFOA contaminated community around DuPont's Washington Works facility. So we have another DuPont lawsuit. In 2000, environmental lawyer Rob Billot won a court order forcing DuPont to share all documentation related to PFOA. The information about PFOA uncovered in this lawsuit led to the class action in 2001 filed by the same attorney on behalf of 80,000 people. This class action was settled in 2005, with DuPont agreeing to provide up to $235 million for medical monitoring. According to a 2004 study by an industry risk assessor hired by DuPont, The plant dumped and emitted over 1.7 million pounds of PFOA between 1951 and 2003. And people who worked in the factory, families living in the local area affected by water pollution, all claiming to have illness linked to PFOA pollution, filed numerous lawsuits against DuPont. In 2013, Gore-Tex eliminated the use of PFOAs in the manufacture of its weatherproof functional fabrics. By 2014, jury ruled that the DuPont was responsible for the kidney cancer of a plaintiff and ordered the company to pay $1.6 million compensatory damages. By 2015, there were approximately 3,500 pending lawsuits. In this case, a jury found that DuPont acted with malice and ordered the company to pay $5.6 million in punitive damages and compensatory damages. Major companies producing PFOA signed with the Global PFOA Stewardship Program with the goal of elimination of PFOA by 2015. Since then, it has been eliminated from the production of non-stick used in cookware. In February 2017, DuPont settled over 3,550 PFOA lawsuits for $671 million, but denied any wrongdoings. So, PFOA contaminates every continent of the world. PFOA has been detected in the Central Pacific Ocean at low parts per quadrillion ranges and at low PPT levels in coastal waters. PFOA is detected widely in surface waters and is present in numerous mammals, fish, and bird species. Most industrialized nations have average PFOA blood serum levels ranging from 2 to 8 parts per billion, ppb. The highest consumer subpopulation identified was in Korea with about 60 parts per billion, 60 ppb. In 2003 to 2004, 99.7% of Americans had detectable PFOA in their serum with an average of about 4 parts per billion, ppb. In Peru, Vietnam, and Afghanistan, blood serum levels have been recorded below 1 part per billion. This is the effects of PFOA on creatures, babies, fish, mortality of fish, and this is the diseased cow. Now let's see about the legal actions on PFOA. US state government actions. In 2007, the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection issued a preliminary health-based guidance level of 0.04 ppb in drinking water. In 2007, the Minnesota Department of Health lowered its health-based value for PFOA in drinking water from 1 ppb to 0.5 ppb. In 2018, the state of New York adopted drinking water standards of 10 ppt. B. U.S. federal government actions. In 2002, proposed a level of 150 ppb for drinking water in the PFOA contaminated area around DuPont's Washington Works plant. On February 15, 2005, EPA's Science Advisory Board, SAB, voted to recommend that PFOA should be considered a likely human carcinogen. On January 25, 2006, EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency of the United States, announced a voluntary program with several chemical companies to reduce PFOA emissions by the year 2015. On November 21, 2006, EPA ordered DuPont to offer alternative drinking water for public or private water users living near DuPont's Washington Works plant if the level of PFOA detected in drinking water is equal to or greater than 0.5 parts per billion. On January 15, 2009, EPA set a provisional health advisory level of 0.4 ppb in drinking water. In May 19, 2016, EPA lowered the drinking water health advisory level to 0.07 ppb for PFOA. And now, how can we minimize the risks? Well, if the water of our area contains PFOA levels that exceed the normal level, we can switch to bottled water or start using water filters. Avoid products that could contain PFOA, such as non-stick cookware or coated food packaging. Buy organic eating and cleaning products. Get information about the potential risk of contamination in our area. If any chemical processing facilities or landfills are located near our house, the chances of contamination are higher. So, have to be aware about that. Another legal actions. The United Nations action. The United Nations Stockholm Convention's Persistent Organic Pollutants Review Committee, POPRC, recommended to eliminate PFOA-related compounds in September 2018. PFOA was proposed for listing under the Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants in 2015. On May 10, 2019, PFOA-related compounds were added to Annex A of the Stockholm Convention by the Conference of the Parties. And D is the German action. The German Federal Environmental Agency issued guidelines for the sum of PFOA concentrations in drinking water, 0.1 parts per billion for precaution and 0.3 parts per billion for threshold. To conclude, it's impossible to predict the long-term effect of PFOA on the environment. As for the health effects, more studies are necessary to confirm the current findings. And before any new conclusions emerge, we can try to prevent the risk of exposure to PFOA by paying more attention to the products we buy. We have to not only see what is the content, but also the wrapping paper. Moreover, it's useful to be informed of the new updates regarding the water quality in our area. And pay attention to the international conferences on POPs or on the Clean Air Act or water conference. We have to pay attention to that kind of conference, international conference held by the United Nations. Every year we have new information. So you have to update them always. And these are the references for the PFOA and PFAS. And I recommend that you take a look at this. And thank you very much for watching this video in this lecture. And let's see again on the next lecture. So bye for now. Stay healthy and take care with the coronavirus, COVID-19. Bye for now. Bye bye.